Hello everyone, so this is just another update video for the month of October this time, of course. And again, these are just videos that I want to make so that I can make more content very easily, so I can just get these out very easily, and so I can talk to you about what movies I've been seeing that I haven't been able to review or just didn't have enough to say about. And so any movie that I saw in the month of October will be in this short video that I haven't talked about already. So let's just jump right in. So at the beginning of the month, I saw Blade Runner, which I already talked about on this channel. It's probably the best movie that I saw of October. So if you want to watch my review of that, just go check the video out because I give my much more in-depth, detailed thoughts on it. Next, I watched a older movie, Bram Stoker's, Francis Ford Coppola's, Gary Oldman's Dracula. This is the first time I've ever seen this one. I saw it in Walmart in a 4K Blu-ray, so I figured why not pick it up. It's Francis Ford Coppola. I've never seen it. Let's check it out. I popped it in my Xbox One to watch it in beautiful 4K, and I have very mixed feelings towards this movie. I think the first half of this movie is a complete disaster, and almost a fascinating one at that. It's so weird and stupid and surreal that it's kind of interesting. But the last half sort of turns into a more traditional movie and works a little bit better in that sense. But if you haven't seen it, I don't know if I could recommend it. Like, it's very weird, and the first half is kind of hard to get through in points. But, I mean, that one's alright. It's not his best, obviously, but if you haven't seen it, and you like him as a director, why not give it a watch? Next, I saw The Foreigner, the Jackie Chan Taken movie, is what I heard it being billed as, and I went into it with high expectations because of that fact, and because Martin Campbell was directing, who has done Casino Royale, for example, and this movie is incredibly disappointing and bad. The majority of the movie is basically just Jackie Chan hiding in the woods while people talk. It's incredibly boring, and most of the stuff that goes on is not interesting in the least. So that movie is really dumb. I also saw the Lego Ninjago movie, which I did not want to see at all after Lego Batman and the clear fall from grace from the first Lego movie. I was like, ugh, how far will Lego Ninjago fall if Lego Batman fell so far? And I was surprised that this movie was not as bad as I thought it would be. The Ninjago movie is definitely still in this Lego verse. Has the great animation, it has a stellar voice cast, but the issue is that they have definitely gone down the road of kid-friendly, and that's it. There's not many jokes that will make parents laugh. There are not many themes that are interesting to think about. There's really nothing to this movie other than a colorful animated movie for kids. And you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it translates to a very kind of bland and boring movie to watch if you are anything but 8 years old or under. Next up, Happy Death Day. I went and saw this movie because it actually gotten some pretty decent reviews, which was kind of weird, so I was like, why not? I went and saw it, and it is awful. I could not believe that anybody gave this a half-decent review. This movie is just terrible, and everything about it makes no sense and doesn't work. So, yeah, it's awful. That's all I can say about it. Next up is The Battle of the Sexes. This movie stars Emma Stone and Steve Carell, and it's about two tennis players back in the 70s and how they went head-to-head to each other to try and prove that women in tennis can be as good as men. Battle of the Sexes ends up being a cluster of ideas that go nowhere. There are so many different random themes just shoved into this movie that just do not pay off in any way. And the movie itself ends up being very bland, boring, predictable, flat, and stupid as a result. There's so many ideas being shoved into this movie that it's an overwhelming nightmare of things happening, and none of them are really that interesting. So next up, I saw The Snowman, and if you've seen any reviews on this, you already know how bad it is. And it's just terrible, so let's move on. The Babysitter movie on Netflix that I recently saw is one of the worst things that I've seen on Netflix in a while. It's embarrassingly bad. Everything about this movie fails completely and falls on its face because it sort of wants to be a Quentin Tarantino, sharp, edgy, funny comedy horror movie, and it completely fails. Next up is Only the Brave, which is a new true story movie about a bunch of firefighters that fought fires. It has an all-star cast and the director of Tron Legacy, so you know that visually this movie is going to be... Oh, it's raining. So you know that visually this movie is going to be pretty excellent, and it's very well directed, it's very well shot, and it covers a subject matter that's actually interesting, and the writing here is actually interesting and paints these people as like real people. Like it actually fleshes out character and makes it so that this sort of substandard, boring, predictable plot that the movie has, the true story plot, actually works. It makes the beats here feel like they actually belong in this movie. And so I'd say check it out. It's pretty good. It's not like an amazing revelation movie, but it's shot well, it looks great, it sounds great, it has a great cast, everyone does a great job, and it's very touching, if you will. So, there's only 2 more movies to talk about on my list here from October. First one is the Meyerowitz Stories, new and selected, which is, again, a Netflix original movie from Noah Baumbach, who has done movies like While We're Young a couple of years ago or last year, and De Palma, among others, and he's usually a pretty solid director. I usually enjoy a good old-fashioned Noah Baumbach movie, and this movie I did enjoy. It has a great cast. Again, Adam Sandler's in it, Dustin Hoffman's in it, Ben Stiller's in it, some other people, like, I'm forgetting, Sigourney Weaver has a weird cameo. And the writing here from Noah is solid. The characters here are pretty well written. The drama that ensues around this little family is pretty good. It's sort of unpredictable and works pretty well as a comedy, has some good beats to it, has some good fun moments to it, has some good drama to it. The problem is everything else, which is not much, but the editing is one of the weirdest, most bizarre, annoying things I've seen this year, and the way that it's shot and directed is so obnoxious that it's hard to sit through this movie. So I don't know about this movie. I sort of liked it, but it annoyed me more than anything. So I don't know if I could say check it out unless you just have literally nothing else to watch or do. So finally, the last movie on my October list is Suburbicon. I know that this movie's getting a lot of hate, and I can understand why, but I was actually really hyped for this. Coen Brothers wrote the script. George Clooney's directing it. It's got a great cast. So I was pretty excited for this. And so when the reviews started coming out and everyone was like, don't see it, it's bad, it's messy, it's annoying, it's bloated, I was like, oh, that's too bad. So I held off watching this until like literally the last day of the month when I was just like, whatever, let's see it. So I went and saw it and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really good. It's not great, and I'll be the first to admit that it's deeply flawed, but it has a lot of great moments to it and a lot of fun stuff that's happening. Basically, the setup is that our main characters are living in the suburbs, when the suburbs were exploding, when it was a huge deal to live in the suburbs. And this black family moves in, and in the 60s or 70s, I can't remember when this is exactly said, the racial tensions are still sort of high, so this family moves in, and the entire neighborhood sort of gangs up on them to try and make them leave because they don't feel safe. So they're like banging pots and pans and throwing stuff at the house and shining their headlights from their cars into the house and just being douchebags all around. While this is happening, Matt Damon's little family is going through a murder mystery. Like, his wife gets murdered, and then it's sort of this whodunit story, but then it becomes this where is everyone's alignment at, and how are these characters intertwined, and what actually are these characters? Who are they? What kind of people are they? It's so wonderful. It's so enjoyable to watch and so pointed politically that it's hard to see that people didn't get it, or it's hard to fathom that people think that it's super ham-fisted. So I don't know. I loved it. It's one of my definite guilty pleasures of the year because, again, I don't think it's a great movie, but I had such a blast watching it, and it's so much fun. It's so entertaining. It's like this. It's a black comedy with some really great, subtle commentary. So I would recommend it. Personally, I think it's a lot of fun, but I know a lot of people don't like it, so just sort of bear that in mind when you're thinking about seeing this movie. But that does it. That's all my movies for October. Again, the best movie I saw in October is Blade Runner 2049, and if you want to see my detailed thoughts on that, go check the video out that I made, my review of it, and my guilty pleasure of the month, Suburbicon. So I'd say check that one out too. Those two movies are excellent in my opinion. Blade Runner way more so. Blade Runner is actually like an amazing movie. Everything about it is excellent. But Suburbicon is just a blast. So that's all I have to say about this. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.